The number one reason for divorce is not violence. It's not shouting. It's not cheating. It's silence. That dangerous, soul-draining silence that creeps in when love has left the room. People often think marriages end in dramatic explosions, but many times they die quietly, slowly, over years, like a candle flickering out without notice. This is how it starts. You stop talking, then you stop laughing, and finally, you stop caring. Kemi and Cola's marriage wasn't always like that. No, theirs was once a fairy tale. They were admired, adored, and even envied. People saw them together and said, "God bless me like you blessed Kemi." But the truth no one saw was that underneath the smiles was a slow emotional death. And it didn't happen overnight. It came drop by drop, starting with indifference. This is the story of Kemi and Kola, a story of youthful love, betrayal, pain, silence, survival, and something most people give up on: rediscovery. This is the story of how happily ever after turned into barely holding on, and how sometimes the person who helps you breathe again is not the one who broke you, but someone who came along when you had already given up. It was in their university days that Kola met Kemi. She was seated under the tree near the science block, scribbling in her notebook, when Kola walked by and dropped a joke loud enough for her to hear. She laughed. That laugh became the start of something beautiful. They started as friends, good friends. They would study together, walk back from lectures, and sometimes share late night Indomie under the hostel stairs. Kola was charming, and Kemi was brilliant. Together, they were inseparable. Everyone knew them as campus lovebirds. Their connection was rare. No games, no pressure, just support and genuine companionship. During their youth service, they stayed in touch, calling every day, writing letters, and dreaming of their future. Kemi always had big dreams, becoming a top executive, helping her family, raising beautiful kids. Kola was more laid back, a natural optimist who just wanted to make it and be happy with Kemi by his side. Their love was real, full of hope and fire. But the real world after NYSC was different. While Kemi quickly landed a great job at a reputable firm, Kola struggled. His first job paid peanuts. Still, Kemi never looked down on him. She encouraged him, believed in him, and assured him they would rise together. They had love. And for Kemi, that was enough. For now. Just 2 years after NYSC, pressure began to build. Kemi's parents started asking questions. "You're working in a big company. When is the wedding?" Her aunties and uncles called regularly, dropping hints and setting up random introductions with other suitors. Kemi wasn't interested in anyone else. Her heart belonged to Kola. So one evening, she invited him out for suya and soft drinks. As they sat under a canopy, she looked at him seriously and said, "My family wants me to settle down soon." Kola sighed. "You know, I'm not financially ready. How do we manage wedding costs?" Kemu reached out, held his hand, and smiled. "We're in this together. I'll take care of it. We're one." He looked at her, unsure, but she meant it. Love, she believed, was stronger than anything. She took Kola home. Her parents were skeptical at first, but Kemi insisted, "This is the man I want." They began preparations. Kemi used her savings. She reached out to her network, and people rallied around to support her. She had a good reputation and a kind heart. The date was set, dresses sewn, all booked, and on a bright Saturday morning, Kemi and Kola tied the knot in grand style. From the outside, it was a dream wedding, but inside, only Kemi knew. She paid the price for love. The wedding day was magical. Kemi looked radiant in her ivory gown, while Kola smiled proudly in his agbada. Friends, family, colleagues, and neighbors came from far and wide. It was the kind of wedding you saw in magazines. People whispered praises. Wow, Kola really planned well. But behind the glamour, it was Kemi who had carried it all. From the food to the music, from the hall to the souvenirs, she had made it happen. Yet, she didn't mind. Not one bit. She loved Kola, and she believed in building a life with him. Her heart was full. Her dreams felt near. After the wedding, they moved into a small apartment not too far from her office. Kemi handled the rent, bought furniture, and made the little space feel like heaven. They were not rich, but they were happy. For months, it was bliss. Laughter echoed through the house. Kola was loving. Kemi felt secure. They were that couple everyone admired. But time has a way of revealing hidden cracks. And when roles aren't balanced, when love gives too much and gets too little, things begin to shift. The bills kept coming. Food, electricity, fuel, rent, baby supplies. It was Kemi handling everything. Kola was still job hunting, managing small contracts that didn't always bring in income. But he remained sweet and supportive. At night, he would rub her feet and tell her she was amazing. "Don't worry," he would whisper. "One day, I'll make you proud." And she believed him. Kemi cooked, cleaned, worked long hours, breastfed their baby, and still found time to listen to Kola's dreams. She was exhausted, but in love. She saw her sacrifices as investments into their future. Her friends started asking questions. Why does Kola not do anything for your birthday? Why are you always the one giving? But Kemi brushed it off. He's just not financially strong right now. She carried the home with one hand and her heart with the other. The early years of Kemi and Kola's marriage felt like a well-written novel. Though they didn't have much, they had each other, and that seemed like enough. Kemi still handled the bills and responsibilities, but Kola didn't make her feel alone. He was present. Every evening, he would wait by the window to welcome her home with a warm hug and a cheerful smile. They laughed over dinner, played with their son, and sometimes stayed up, talking about dreams they still believed in. Kola would say, "One day, we'll travel abroad. You and me. No work, just vibes." Kemi would giggle, tired but hopeful. She believed him. When their second child came, things got a little tighter, but still, they managed. Kemi's job provided stability, and she continued to pour her soul into the family. To outsiders, they were a perfect couple. People admired them, called them goals, and even used them as examples during marriage seminars. Kemi and Kola, we see what God is doing in your lives, people would say at church. But what no one saw was the imbalance. Kemi was slowly becoming the only engine running the marriage. She paid, planned, and pushed everything forward. And though Kola showed her love, a part of her began to feel the weight alone. Still, she held on tightly. She believed that once Kola got a better job, things would balance out. She reminded herself, it's just a season. But life, as always, had its own script. After 5 long years of struggle, the call finally came. Kola landed a prestigious job with a multinational firm. The salary was impressive. Benefits included an official car, medicals, housing support, and even a once-a-year vacation package. Kemi screamed in joy. They danced together in the living room. The kids clapped, not fully understanding the meaning, but sharing in their parents' joy. For the first few weeks, everything felt new again. Kola was excited. He bought some groceries without being asked. He filled the fuel tank. He kissed Kemi's forehead and told her, Now it's my turn to lift us. Kemi relaxed for the first time in years. She even started dreaming about cutting down her work hours to focus more on their kids. But as Kola settled into his new role, something else quietly crept in. A change. He began dressing differently. His phone started ringing more. His tone became shorter. He started correcting Kemi's speech in public as though embarrassed. She laughed it off. At first, he said he was adjusting to corporate life, and Kemi tried to believe that. But deep down, her heart whispered, something's not right. One Friday evening, Kemi made jollof rice, his favorite. She set the table and waited. 7 p.m. passed. 8 p.m. 9 p.m. She called. Hello, baby. Sorry, had a flat tire. I'm coming. Don't worry. He got home by midnight. The next week, it was traffic. The following week, a meeting. Kemi began to notice a pattern. He no longer rushed home. He was always tired. Sometimes, he didn't even eat her food. The warmth began to fade. Their laughter was now brief. The conversations became mechanical. How was work? Fine. The kids? They're okay. He started leaving early and returning late. His eyes were always on his phone. She began to feel like a tenant in her own marriage. One day, as she reached for his ringing phone to answer a call, Kola stormed in from the kitchen and snatched it out of her hand like it was gold. What are you doing with my phone? He barked. Kemi blinked, confused. I was just going to answer. You don't touch my phone, he snapped and walked out. That was the day something broke inside her. That was the day love turned cold. Kola's phone became his second skin. He carried it to the bathroom, slept with it under his pillow. If it rang and he wasn't close by, he would leap across the house like a man chasing a thief. He started putting passwords, changed them weekly, kept his chats muted. Kemi noticed, but she said nothing. But her heart was screaming. Her nights became sleepless. Her eyes became hollow. She started overthinking every little thing. Maybe I'm not exciting anymore. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe I'm overreacting. But the truth was in the silence. And the silence was loud. One night, Kola came home unusually early. He took a shower, ate dinner, and laid on the couch to watch TV. As the kids slept and Kemi cleaned up, she noticed his phone had fallen to the floor beside the couch. For a second, she stared at it. She told herself to walk away. But her fingers betrayed her. She picked up the phone. What she saw changed everything. The phone vibrated in her hand. Baby, hope you got home safe. Last night was sweet like fire. Her heart dropped. She scrolled. More messages. I missed the way you touched me. Can't wait for our weekend getaway. Kemi couldn't breathe. Her hands shook violently. Her knees weakened. She walked to where Kola lay, snoring like a generator. She stood there, watching him, thinking of everything she had given. Her money, her body, her youth, her trust. She shook him awake. He opened his eyes, confused. What is this? She asked, her voice trembling. He sat up, blinking. Kemi threw the phone at him. I read everything. Every dirty word. Every lie. How could you, Kola? Kola stuttered, his mouth open like a child caught stealing meat. He dropped to his knees. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It was just a fling, a mistake. Kemi broke into loud, aching sobs. You gave her what you denied me. You betrayed me. He begged. He cried. He promised. After days of silence and tears, Kemi, against the will of her broken heart, chose forgiveness. She loved him too much. But love alone was not enough. After the incident, the house grew quiet. Too quiet. Kola was on his best behavior. He came home early, He joined Kemi in the kitchen. He helped with the kids. He even took her out for dinner one weekend, something he hadn't done in years. From the outside, things looked repaired. But Kemi's heart knew better. Something inside her had cracked that night. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. Every time Kola touched her, she thought about how he touched someone else. Every time he said, "I love you," she remembered that he had said those words to another woman. But she stayed for the children, for the home, for the hope that maybe, just maybe, he had truly changed. Kola, on his part, seemed determined to fix things. For weeks, he behaved like the old Kola, gentle, loving, thoughtful. But even then, something about him still felt distant. Kemi tried to match his energy. She laughed when he joked. She dressed up when he asked for date nights. She even bought him a wristwatch to celebrate his promotion. Still, her heart whispered, "Be careful." Because once trust is broken, it becomes fragile, like glass glued back together. It might hold for a while, but even the smallest pressure can shatter it again. And soon enough, the pressure returned. For about a month, Kola was the perfect husband. But slowly, like a leaking tap, the lies returned. First, it was extra work meetings, then company retreats, then late-night team bonding sessions. This time, he covered his tracks better. New passwords, hidden apps, carefully timed phone calls. But Kemi had learned to read signs. She noticed when his perfume changed. She noticed when he started dressing sharper. She saw the way he avoided eye contact during dinner. Yet, she said nothing. She watched. She waited. Until one Saturday afternoon, Kola was in the bathroom taking a shower. His phone buzzed beside the bed. Kemi looked. The message glowed on the screen. "I love the gift you sent through your driver. Thank you, my love. Can't wait to see you by 4 p.m. Kemi blinked, her heart racing. Earlier that morning, Kola had told her he had an urgent meeting at 4 p.m. But now, the truth stared her in the face. He hadn't changed. She wanted to scream, to confront him, right there. But she didn't. This time, she waited. Kola returned home at midnight, casually humming, like nothing happened. Kemi was waiting. She looked at him, eyes red with silent rage. "So, your meeting went well?" she asked. Kola hesitated, sensing something. "Yes, it was a long day," he said, heading to the kitchen. Kemi followed him. "I saw the message. I know where you went." He froze. "You have money for gifts now. You send things through drivers." "Interesting," she continued, voice low but shaking with anger. "But when it's my birthday, you say, birthdays are just another day." Kola said nothing. Kemi's voice cracked. "I bought you shirts when you had nothing. I cooked for you when I had no time. I paid rent, bought you shoes. And now, you have money, but it's not for me, it's for her." Kola sighed. "Kemi, it's not what you think." "Then explain it," she yelled. "Explain how you can celebrate another woman, but can't remember your own wife's birthday, or our wedding anniversary." Tears ran down her face. "I believed in you," she whispered. And for the first time, Kola had no words, because he knew she was right. The wedding anniversary came and went. Kemi bought a small cake. She lit a candle, gathered the kids, and cut it herself. Kola didn't show up until after midnight. No gift, no card, not even a text. She had stopped expecting, but it still hurt. She remembered the days she used to buy him surprise gifts. A wallet he admired, a perfume he loved, a belt to match his shoes. She gave, not because she had plenty, but because she loved him deeply. And now, he had more than enough. Yet, he gave nothing, not even time. That night, she sat alone on the couch, looking at their wedding pictures. They were laughing in those photos. She was radiant. He looked proud. Where did those two people go? She placed the photo frame face down. She was tired. So very tired. Kemi stopped talking. She stopped questioning. She stopped waiting. She went to work, took care of the kids, cleaned, cooked, smiled at neighbors. But inside, she was empty. Kola came and went like a ghost. Sometimes they slept in the same bed, but their backs never touched. He still lied, still hid his phone, still kept secrets. Kemi no longer tried to catch him. She just detached. The final straw wasn't another message or another perfume. It was the moment she realized she no longer felt anything. No more pain, no more anger, just nothing. He had betrayed her so many times that her heart had stopped reacting. She looked at him and saw a man she used to love, a man she once sacrificed everything for. Now, he was just a roommate. And that, perhaps, was the biggest tragedy of all. Kemi and Kola still shared the same house, same table, same bed. But nothing felt the same. When Kola walked in, she didn't look up anymore. When he greeted her, she responded politely, like a tenant to a landlord. When he cracked jokes, the silence answered him. Their children noticed. Even the youngest one, who once jumped on Daddy's lap every evening, now clung to Kemi more. Kola's presence didn't bring peace. It brought awkwardness. He was a ghost in the house, moving through rooms like a forgotten memory. Sometimes, Kemi would lie awake at night and watch him sleep. The same man she once dreamt of growing old with now felt like a stranger. She remembered their university days, how he used to wait for her after class with suya in hand, how he once held her hand when she was sick during NYSC and whispered, "Don't die on me, we still have a future." Now, their future had expired. The dreams had rotted. She didn't confront him anymore. She didn't check his phone. She didn't ask where he was going. What was the point? When you've been burned too many times, you learn to stop playing with fire. Instead, she gave all her love to the children. They became her heartbeat, her reason to smile. And Kola, he noticed the shift. One night, he asked, "Kemi, are we okay?" She stared at him, expressionless. "We're surviving." That was the only answer she had left. It started with cramps, then back pain, then sharp, twisting aches in her lower stomach. Kemi thought it was just stress. She took painkillers and tried to carry on, but the pain refused to leave. It clung to her like a shadow, growing stronger each day. One morning, she collapsed in the kitchen while packing the children's school lunch. Her eldest daughter screamed. They rushed her to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor looked at her gently, but firmly. "You have pelvic inflammatory disease, PID. It's often caused by sexually transmitted infections." Kemi froze. Her ears rang. "From who?" she whispered, even though her heart already knew the answer. The doctor placed a hand on hers. "It's treatable, but you need to be careful. Both you and your husband should be placed on medication." The word husband felt like poison. When Kola arrived at the hospital, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply handed him the doctor's note. "You gave this to me," she said, voice flat. He stood there, unable to speak. She turned her back on him, curled up in pain, not just from the infection, but from the betrayal. This one had reached her bones. Kemi followed the treatment plan. She went for checkups, took her pills, adjusted her diet, but nothing helped the ache in her heart. She had always feared being cheated on, but now she had lived through it, twice, and paid with her oath. The man she loved not only broke her trust, but endangered her life. She didn't scream or confront anymore. That version of Kemi had died. Now, she was quiet, number-focused. She began to take more interest in her health, drank her water, did her walking exercises. She prayed more, sang softly in the kitchen. When alone, she began to pull her soul back from the edge. Kola still lived in their house, but now the distance was too wide to ignore. He tried sometimes to be helpful. Let me drop the kids. Or, do you want pap this morning? But Kemi answered with short sentences. The more he tried, the clearer it became that his efforts were late. She didn't hate him, she just didn't need him anymore. And that was worse. Kemi made a quiet vow to herself. No more begging for love. She poured everything into her children. Their studies, their dreams, their confidence. She attended every school event, helped with assignments, packed lunchboxes with loving notes. She would lie with them at night, telling stories of her youth. The children loved her deeply, and in their love, she found healing. She started attending women's prayer groups, not to cry over her marriage, but to thank God for giving her the strength to survive it. Her friends noticed the change. Kemi, you're glowing, one said. She smiled. Peace does that. She no longer checked what Kola was doing. She no longer waited up at night. When he walked in late, she didn't ask. When he left early, she simply waved goodbye to the children. Kola noticed the silence. He felt it like a chill in the air, and slowly, regret began to settle in his heart. But by then, it was too late. Kemi had become her own peace, and she had no plans of letting it go. Years passed. Kemi's children became her greatest pride. Her eldest, a brilliant girl with her mother's determination, earned a scholarship abroad. Her son became a software engineer, constantly designing apps that he told her would change the world. Kemi watched them with joy. Everything she sacrificed was worth it. They never forgot how much she gave. They remembered the nights she cried silently, the meals she skipped so they could eat, the day she fainted in the kitchen. They remembered it all. When Kola tried to take credit at family events, the children smiled politely, but they knew. They had grown up watching their mother carry a family on her back while bleeding inside. One day, her daughter called from abroad with excitement. Mommy, I had the baby. The voice on the other end of the call squealed with joy. Kemi's heart skipped. Her daughter, the baby she once rocked to sleep through tears of exhaustion, was now a mother. I want you to come and help me, she continued, her voice soft. Please. Kemi stood in her tiny kitchen, overwhelmed. For years, she had dreamed of traveling abroad, not for sightseeing or shopping, but just for a change, a breath of air, different from the one that carried pain. Her visa was arranged, and soon she was on a flight to the United States, her first time on a plane. She stared out the window the entire flight, lost in thoughts. When she landed, her daughter ran to hug her. The house was warm, modern, and filled with baby items and sweet-smelling lotions. Her grandchild, a beautiful baby girl, was the first to make her cry tears of joy in a long time. They called her Grama, and suddenly, that became her new identity. Not a cheated wife, not a tired mother, but Grama, the heartbeat of the home. She cooked, she cleaned, she danced with her granddaughter in the living room. The cold American weather couldn't freeze the warmth now growing inside her. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. She went for a stroll and met a man. The neighborhood was peaceful. Snow softly covered the sidewalks. Children's bikes leaned against porches. And there, Across the street was a man, African, just like her, also taking an evening stroll. They nodded at each other politely. "You from Nigeria?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes." "Kwara State." "Ah, I'm from Ekiti. My name is Femi." She introduced herself. They chatted briefly, harmless, pleasant talk about the weather, the neighborhood, and their grandchildren. That night, Kemi told her daughter, "I met someone from home today, just there on the next street." Her daughter raised her brows. "Oh? Mr. Femi, he's really nice. Helped us settle in when we first moved here. His wife died a few years ago. Cancer." Kemi nodded thoughtfully. He seemed kind. And he was. The next morning, as she stepped out to spread baby clothes on the drying rack, there he was again, waving from his porch. It felt like a coincidence, but some coincidences are just destiny in disguise. Kemi sat in the living room one evening, watching Femi play with her granddaughter. He made silly faces, and the baby laughed with a joy so pure it softened every corner of Kemi's heart. Her daughter came beside her and whispered, "Mom, are you okay?" Kemi nodded slowly. "I'm more than okay." It wasn't like with Kola. Femi didn't flatter her with empty promises. He didn't throw big words or dramatic gestures. He remembered the little things, like the way she liked her tea or how her knee ached on cold mornings. He left small notes by her door. "Bundle up. It's colder today." He brought books from the library he thought she'd enjoy. He helped her find a Nigerian hair salon. He even offered to drive her around if she needed. One afternoon, after folding laundry together, he said gently, "Kemi, I'm not rushing you. But if you ever feel like you need someone to talk to, someone who won't hurt you, I'm here." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but because someone finally saw her. Not the mother, not the wife, not the wounded woman, just her. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to say the words, even if just in her heart, "I deserve this." Kemi had grown used to loving with caution. Her heart had been through battles it didn't sign up for, fought with silence, cried in corners, and healed in private. But now, with Femi, things were different. He didn't demand anything from her. He didn't expect her to forget the past or erase her scars. Instead, he made space for her. He treated her like someone precious, not someone to be tolerated or corrected. He brought her small gifts, not expensive things, but thoughtful ones. A wrapper she once admired at the African store, a photo frame where she could put her granddaughter's picture, a CD of old Yoruba love songs she used to listen to in the 90s. They laughed together. They sat on the porch in silence without needing to fill the air with noise. Sometimes, he just held her hand. No words, no pressure, just presence. And slowly, Kemi's walls began to fall. She found herself telling him stories from her childhood. She spoke of her dreams, the ones she had buried deep when life became about survival. She found herself smiling more, humming again in the kitchen. It wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was quiet, consistent, and in that stillness, she found something she never expected: a second chance. One morning, as Kemi arranged plantains in the kitchen, her daughter entered with a nervous look. "Mommy, can I talk to you?" Kemi nodded. "It's about Mr. Femi," she began slowly. "You two seem close." Kemi paused, then smiled. "Yes, he's been very kind to me." Her daughter hesitated. "It's not that I'm against it, but you're a grandmother now. You've been through so much. I just don't want you to be hurt again." Kemi reached across the table and held her daughter's hand. "My dear, I understand your concern. I used to think my life was over after what happened with your father. I thought I would never feel anything again except pain and duty. But Femi, he makes me feel alive. He treats me like I matter." There was silence between them. Then her daughter sighed. "I remember what you went through. All the nights you cried, all the strength you gave us, even when you were falling apart inside." She wiped her eyes. "Maybe you do deserve this happiness." Kemi hugged her. "I'm not rushing anything, but I won't deny myself joy anymore. Not at this stage in life. I won't let fear rob me twice." Kemi and Femi didn't make grand announcements. There were no wedding balls or loud declarations. But there was understanding. There was companionship. They spent more time together, gardening, cooking, watching Nigerian movies. They attended community events. Femi began helping her take the baby on walks. People in the neighborhood started calling them Mr. and Mrs. as a joke. Kemi blushed every time, but deep down, she didn't mind. One day, she looked at Femi and asked, "Do you think it's too late to start over?" He smiled and held her hand. "Number, I think this is exactly the right time." Back home in Nigeria, Kola noticed her silence. She no longer called. She no longer asked how he was doing. And it hurt him more than any insult, because he knew she had finally moved on. News traveled fast. A cousin in America mentioned it. A family friend hinted at it. Someone showed Kola a photo of Kemi and a man sitting at a local park bench in the US. Kola exploded. "After everything I did for that woman, after all these years, she's parading herself with a man abroad?" He called Kemi. She didn't pick. He called her siblings. "Dala, she's disgracing our family," he shouted. A grandmother acting like a teenager. Kemi heard of his tantrums, but she stayed calm. She wasn't a teenager in love. She was a woman who had known pain and chose healing. She had begged for years, cried for attention, prayed for change. But now, she was done begging. Femi wasn't a rebound. He was a rescue. And Kola's opinions no longer mattered. Because when you've walked through fire and made it out alive, you don't let smoke choke you again. Kemi's story isn't a fairy tale. It's not perfect. It's not wrapped in glitter or tied with pretty bows. It's raw. It's real. It's the story of many women, some sitting in silence, others smiling through pain. Women who gave everything to marriages that gave them nothing but wounds. Some will say she should have stayed. Some will say she moved on too fast. But the truth is this: you don't get to tell someone how long to bleed or how long to wait before feeling alive again. Kemi's story reminds us that love alone is not enough. You need respect, loyalty, consistency, safety. So before you judge her, ask yourself, what would you have done? Would you have stayed in silence or chosen peace? Would you have kept wearing a wedding ring that only marked your loneliness? Or would you, like Kemi, have said, "My story doesn't end in pain. I deserve joy too"? Now, over to you, dear viewer. Who do you think is to blame? Grandma Kemi, Grandpa Kola, Mr. Femi, or maybe no one? Tell us in the comments. And remember, sometimes surviving is the most courageous thing a woman can do. Subscribe for more African folktales. Like, share, and comment.